Hello there. It's been quite a while since I've posted anything on the channel. 9 months, in fact. Two bouts of COVID, one in the end of June and another one in October, meant that I wasn't really functioning terribly well. Brain fog and fatigue and everything meant that doing anything on YouTube really just wasn't an option for me. In between the two, though, I did manage to get away to Scotland for a few weeks and to the north of England, and I'd have a few videos coming up, including this one, showing some of the images that I got and the places that I went to. And for the future of the channel, I think I've been giving it a bit of thought, and I want to try and do a mixture of travel and the van life, and also incorporate the tutorials as well. So I'll try and get them all done maybe in one video if I can from time to time. That would be a little bit of the trip that I'm doing, the images that I take, and then maybe working through the processing that I used on one or two of those images. But I've also been asked if I might do a series of tutorials for complete beginners in Lightroom, so that's in the pipeline as well. So welcome back. If you haven't been here before, I hope you'll find the channel useful and informative or entertaining, and hopefully there'll be a lot more videos in the next 9 months than there were in the last. So now let's rewind to September. I started on a Monday evening driving from Dublin to Belfast and found a lovely park-up spot at Jordanstown on the shores of Belfast Lough. I had an early start the next morning with a short drive to the ferry. It was wet and windy as I queued up and boarded the ferry, but as the morning wore on, it brightened up, and by the time we docked at Cairnryan at 10 o'clock, it was a bright, overcast morning, so I began the long trip north. The bright conditions didn't last, however. The rain returned, and I had a 7-hour drive to my first stop at Dorney, stopping off briefly at Glencoe, but rain and low cloud made any photography impossible. I was a bit more fortunate on my previous trip to Glencoe in 2021. Here are some of the images that I captured on that trip. As I was getting closer to Dorney, I remember getting fantastic fish and chips from the cafe in the car park at Island Donan Castle on my last visit, and I was looking forward to treating myself again, but disappointment awaited me. I was too late getting there and it was closed. No Blue Arrow photos to be had either this time around, but I wasn't disappointed as I had got great images the last time. There's a lovely quiet parking spot just above Dorney with room for 3 camper vans, and I was just able to squeeze into the last remaining spot. The rain finally softened, and next morning I was met with this wonderful view of the castle. In the time I spent in Scotland, there were a lot of days of mixed sun and rain, which of course provides ideal conditions to see rainbows like this one. As I was driving along, I could see a patch of light moving across the water, and just had enough time to pull my van over and position myself so that the rainbow's end aligned with the island, and had to wait just a few moments before the movement of the clouds created a patch of sunlight in the same spot. Well, if everything came together for me with the rainbow shot, I had the opposite experience with these trees. I could see them in the distance, spotlit by the sun, but by the time I got close enough, the sun had moved behind them. I waited for about 20 minutes to see if the light would move around and come back to the trees, but it wasn't to be. I did my best in Lightroom to try and recreate what I'd seen, but this is not even close. Such are the joys of landscape photography. Loch Maree in the Scottish Highlands, if I can get it in the frame there. Where we go? Right back there. And what I'm trying to achieve is a photograph with dappled light all down through the valley. The sun has been coming in, going out, but it hasn't really cooperated. So what I'm going to do is take a number of exposures and I'm going to combine them afterwards. This is where my microphone lost the battle with the wind. I combined these photos in Photoshop using layer masks to get this final result. Continuing down the hill from the last location and along the southern banks of Loch Maree, there's this iconic looking lone Scots pine tree with the mountain of Sliach in the background. This is an iconic location, and it's one I found through a photography guidebook, Photographing Scotland by Dougie Cunningham. Highly recommend always investing in a guidebook for photography trips. It just helps you find the spots without wandering around aimlessly. This was where my day's photography came to an end abruptly. I have never seen anything like the horizontal rain. Incredible 50-60 mile an hour winds, and the rain just swirling around all around the place. No shelter home whatsoever. It even managed to get past the seal on one of the roof lights in the camper van. It really was just biblical, is the only word I think I can use to describe it. And now this morning I'm in woodland just above Torridon and just exploring to see what I can find. There's beautiful colours. Greens are still quite lush on some of the trees. The ferns have started to take on a kind of an orange colour, and there's beautiful purple heather. Some of it's fading, but some of it still has most of its colour. So I'm just looking around to see what I can find. So I think I found the composition here. I've got these two trees which are forming sort of a V shape, and there's purple heather at the base, there's golden ferns, there's the beautiful colours on the bark of the silver birch, and I'm shooting at f/16 on the GFX 50. I am at about 1.3 seconds ISO 100. I'm using the 100 to 200mm lens. I just want to focus in on the important bits of the scene. And I want to try and avoid the path that's behind me. If I step over here, you'll probably be able to see it a bit better, which is quite bright. So I'm just focusing very, very tightly. 3 exposures, one on the nearest tree, one on the ferns, and one on the distant tree. This is a focus stack of 4 separate images. If you'd like to see how it's done, stick around to the end of the video for a tutorial. I shot this video on my way into Torridon on the first day, but the light was a bit too contrasty to get any kind of good results. So I came back on my way out of Torridon and I got this shot. A shutter speed of around about ½ a second gave that nice kind of streaking in the water. Possibly it was a little bit too long, but the water was flowing very, very fast and very difficult to get exactly the right shutter speed. As I continued my travels, I came along the coast of Loch Torridon and spotted this red-roofed cottage where I took 5 handheld images to stitch into a panorama. I found this stitched better in Luminar Neo than it did in Lightroom. The roof was very jagged looking in spots on Lightroom. As I continued along the coast, I saw this couple walking on the beach, and I think the size of them just gives you an idea of the sense of scale of this vast landscape. The guidebooks promised stunning views from Bealach na Bó. However, the weather had other ideas. Visibility was down to literally 10 or 15 meters. So it was a long drive with absolutely nothing to see. until I came to the end. I was greeted with this scene at the bottom of the road down from Ballachnamore. It was pouring rain and really, really windy, impossible to keep the camera dry. I have a clear glass filter that snaps on, and I was able to use that to make my composition and decide my shutter speed, and then very quickly just pop it off to take the shot and then back on again. So that's it for this part of the trip. Join me next time as I visit the amazing Isle of Skye, get soaked again at the fairy pools, and then travel into the most amazing woodland of Glen Affric. If you've liked what you've seen, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel and give it a like, and stand by for the focus stacking tutorial. I actually have 4 images here that I'm going to combine, and I'm going to right click, I'm going to go edit in, and oops, I've lost it, and I'm going to come down to the very bottom of the flyout where it says open as layers in Photoshop. So now we have our 4 layers, and you can see them here in the layers palette. I'm going to just shift click to select them all and edit, and we first of all go to auto align layers, and we just select auto. It was quite a windy day, so there may have been a little bit of movement. Okay, so now we have the layers all aligned. You can see actually it's a very, very slight faint line on the side there. Our next move is to go to auto blend layers, and we have stack images rather than panorama selected, so that will align them all in one stack, and it's blending. And there we have our 4 images blended together. So if I click through them, that's the combined one. So you can see here, Photoshop has selected this section of this image here, then added in the background from this image, filled in a bit of the midground here, and more of the midground here, to give us that final composite. So now the only thing left to do is to go layer, flatten image, and file, save as, and here we have our new TIFF. So if I go into the develop module here, I can do whatever selective adjustments I want to do. And I think really all I want to do is maybe just create a little bit of a vignette around the center here. So we'll go in to pick a radial gradient in the masking tool, pull it out nice and wide, we'll invert it here, pull the exposure down very slightly, and I think we're done.